Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. We have with us a special guest, Kirsten Jordan, female lead of $1 Million Listing New York, mama of 3 littles, luxury broker at Douglas Elliman, entrepreneur extraordinaire, building a real estate empire. Welcome, Kirsten Jordan.
Hi, Christina. It's funny for me to hear you read off everything because I feel like, I've been working with you for almost 10 years now. So I'm like, of course, here we are. My buddy, my guru.
Oh, come on. No, I'm so excited that we get to go through this story because it has been like almost a decade of our journey together and knowing each other. And you've just been amazing. You're such a powerhouse in the home, outside the home. And you are one of these ladies that I've worked with that has really taken charge of her health. Like you were just kind of like, I will do whatever it takes to get what I want. And that is the attitude that I love. So let's start at the beginning. You have PCOS. How did you find out you had it?
I have known that I had some sort of issue with my cycle since probably my teens, just because I was super irregular and I didn't really know how to control it. What happened in college was I ended up getting, I think that they tested me or did blood work. And of course that was like when the actual PCOS was diagnosed. It was like, oh, here's your testosterone levels. Here's, your insulin. And I don't even think insulin levels were part of it, but my testosterone levels were really high, or high for what they should have been. And so they put me on Metformin. And that was probably, I think I was 18 or 19. And frankly, Metformin was pretty awesome for a little while because the fact that it helped with my cravings and it like helped me keep my weight down because I genuinely have this PCOS. And so for me, having something that sensitized my body to insulin felt really good. Like felt like I had more mental clarity. But the problem is like, it was really hard on my system and it was really hard on my stomach. And then of course, like I was a college girl and I was going out and having fun and drinking, and you're not really supposed to do that while you're on Metformin. And I think that was like, not a good combination, And so I was on Metformin, but I basically was on it and off of it until my mid-20s because it was just like super effective in helping me with a lot of, just my cycle actually, because it really affected the insulin levels and really helped with my cycle. And then at one point it just kind of stopped working. And I went off of it after I got married because I was like, whatever, it's time to just like move on from these meds, because for me that was like meds. And it was at the point where I was having half of a dose a day. So I was having half of a pill. So it was like so little that it started feeling like I'm sick of being nauseous all day long, which is really kind of what it made me.
Yeah. And, that's how it helps some people lose weight, because it gives you like this low grade queasiness, which is not totally ideal. And you are the kind of person that can power through anything. But I remember when we met, the story that I got from you was that it had worked for you, just like you said, for a while. And then it kind of ran its course and wasn't having the same effect. Like it didn't regulate your cycle as well. Yep. And it just, and that can be sometimes because Metformin depletes nutrients from the body. Like it depletes a lot of B vitamins and minerals and can be hard on your kidneys. And so.
And your liver.
Yes, definitely.
Probably.
Yeah. But, with Metformin, it can be effective in certain cases where somebody is overweight and needs to get the weight down and doesn't have much control over their diet or their urges. However, if I see thinner types of PCOS and you might have to manage your weight, but like you're not an overweight person. Right. When I see thinner types, sometimes it actually makes them too skinny and can affect their fertility adversely. I'm a fan of my own inositol in lieu of Metformin, but I'm also a big fan of the whole picture of nutrition and acupuncture and herbs and all the things, which we are going to get into. So when did you decide to pursue natural medicine and nutrition to help you regulate your hormones and get pregnant?
Well, I stopped taking the Metformin, and my mom was like, and I wasn't getting pregnant. And I think I tried for like a year, and my mom kept saying, the practice that you were part of kept coming up in conversation with other people. Mm-hmm. And so and so my mom kept saying, you should go to one of these places where there's like, where there's like acupuncture and there's other ways to treat it. Because when I had originally gone to like a traditional fertility doctor, they were like, oh, we're going to put you on Clomid, we're going to put you on progesterone. And I was just like, I'm going to go crazy. I can't even be on birth control. I mean, it's a miracle I haven't gotten pregnant until now. And now here I'm trying to get pregnant and like, I can't get pregnant, but like hormones are not going to be the answer for me because I'll just kill people. Like it will be awful. Like, and I'll be depressed. I just knew my body couldn't process those hormones. I already had trouble processing hormones when I did have them enough to be able to get my period. So, so that's how I found your practice. And I remember starting out with you and, it was just kind of like, hey, whatever she tells me to do, I'm going to do because I don't even know what to do now. And I've always been disciplined. It was more that I never had direction of what to do. So I always been disciplined about exercise, about diet, but I didn't have anybody telling me exactly what a healthy diet looked like for what I needed to do. And then of course, like I'd lived in Italy. And so healthy diet there, and then trying to translate that to here is really difficult because you can eat a bunch of stuff there that you can't eat the same version of here to feel good. And I was still drinking coffee and I was still, there was a lot of things that I was doing that probably weren't right. And so what happened was we found each other, and that was I got married in 2011. So I think it was like 2012, right? That I came in like the spring of 2012. And that's when I started doing whatever the hell you told me to do. I was just like, whatever Christina says, I'm going to do.
So it's kind of one of those situations that it's a lot of my patients, I think, find themselves in this position where by the time they get to me, they're just ready. Like they've tried other things. It hasn't really worked. They're just ready to do whatever it is they need to do to get where they want to be. But it does also take like a certain amount of faith, right? That this is going to work, because we have been trained mostly in the conventional side of things that nutrition doesn't really matter that much, and natural medicine is like woo woo. And so when you come into it, there's got to be a certain amount of faith that like this has the possibility to do what you're seeking to do. So when I gave you sort of an anti-inflammatory, insulin resistance PCOS diet, you put it into action right away. Do you remember if you found it difficult or what that journey was like for you?
I think like it was, well, first of all, I did it, that was 10 years ago. So I hadn't been through the other adrenal depleting stuff that I've been through since, of like having the 3 children. So I feel like I was also doing like the cleansing with you. I was doing a lot of stuff that like, I don't even know if I could have done it now, in the sense of like, I was really ready, and I was able to step down on the caffeine to green tea, I think. And then I was able to get off of caffeine altogether. And so like I felt like, I don't remember whether it was hard. I just remember being kind of like, okay, this is the decision. This is what I'm cutting out. This is what I'm allowed to eat. This is what I'm doing. I'm committed. And it worked. I don't know if some of the stuff that I had to do then I could do now per se, because the fact that I feel like you probably give me something that was an adjusted version of it now, just because you know me so well, and there's other things that I probably would do. But I would say at that time, I felt like it was worth it. I felt like I also saw body changes quickly and other energy changes. Like I felt pretty good. Like my skin looks great. I actually felt like I was thinner in the right way, or like my body felt lighter in the beginning as well. And no, and I felt like it was the kind of thing where once I went in that direction, I was like, oh, I'm never going back to eating and doing what I did before. Like I was never going to go back to dairy. I was never going to go back to gluten. I was never going to dabble with any of that stuff again. And I think like the education around even the other things I was eating, like I was eating a lot of Cliff Bars and stuff, I think at one point. So like, education around that stuff of like looking at ingredients, and then also just being really mindful of stimulants. Like right now, I will be honest, like I drink black tea right now, and I have iced tea sitting right next to me with ice, which I know is really bad. But like at the time,
it's all balanced in a picture, right? Like, it's like, it's the point of doing a lifestyle modification to change your hormonal makeup and your fertility is not so that you feel like you have to be 100% abstaining from everything all the time. It's more just leaning in a certain direction and starting to crowd out the old lifestyle patterns and the old habits with better ones. And when you say that you, like, your body changed and you notice things, like, it literally is like when you change your hormones, like when you bring insulin levels down and inflammation down and you start to heal your adrenal glands, your body shape does change. Like, you might be more puffy to begin with on the upper part of the body, or maybe it's around the thighs, and then suddenly you start to thin out around your midsection and you feel lighter. And I always tell people, like, don't look as much at the scale, like, at first, like feel what it's like in your clothes. And oftentimes the first feedback you get is going to be from other people. People are going to be like, you look great. What are you doing?
Yeah. And you're like, but I get on the scale and it's no different. People come up to me all the time, like, you've lost so much weight. And I'm like, tell the scale, please, because I'm like exactly the same.
Yeah.
And that's
it
okay.
Like redistributes in a way. And it's about, being healthy and a lot of it has to do with bringing down the insulin levels and inflammation in PCOS, but that can translate into a lot of fertility cases.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So you remember doing the cleansing, you remember restructuring everything, and you've kind of carried it forward to today. Why do you think that you've maintained a lot of those nutritional principles throughout all these years, even after you conceived your children?
I mean, there's multiple reasons. I would say number one is I'm a super high achiever, really, 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 really driven. I'm also incredibly vain. I really care a lot about how I look, and it's super important to me. It's part of my brand, having like my skin glow, having fit into my clothes, being able to wear great clothes because I'm thin, like all of that really matters to me. And I'm unapologetic about it. And people are like, hey, like, what do you do? And I'm just like, I do whatever Christina tells me to do, because you know what, it works for me. And I feel like thankful that, we've been on this journey together in a lot of ways, in the sense that, you've been with me through all of it. And truthfully, like now, I mean, I'm using like the actual junk juice products. Like, I'm using Supernatural in a certain part of my cycle. I'm using Glow. I'm using Detox. and those support it as well, because I would say like the diet part, it's not as easy for me to follow if I'm not inherently getting a little bit of reset from the acupuncture and the Chinese herbs. Mm-hmm. At a minimum, the Chinese herbs, just because like, I mean, I don't know, you can fall off the wagon a little bit here and there. You can, have a couple nights of terrible sleep or have to go out 3 nights in a row because of entertaining for work. And like, how do you reset? And it isn't just the diet and exercise. That's enough for me. I do need other stuff. And I know that about myself. I mean, maybe if I didn't have access to the herbs and I didn't have access to the expertise that I've learned from you, maybe I would just be like, oh, it's just all about I don't know, some kind of a cleanse after a weekend of overindulging. But like now the combination of it is what I fall back on. And truthfully, it's kind of like a I don't know, like almost like a superpower. Yeah, it's a formula, but it's also like a best kept secret that I don't keep a secret. I think it's kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm. So for all of our listeners, when Kirsten mentions junk juice or Chinese herbs, these are cocktails of basically custom formulations, and that she has been taking since our work started together. And Kirsten had irregular menstrual cycles, and so we needed to get those more regular to be able to have her conceive. We wanted to see that ovulation happening, mm-hmm. and catch the window. So we started cleaning up the diet, we cleaned up her nutrition, and we were at the same time doing acupuncture, and then entered the junk juice or the Chinese herbs. And I was doing custom fertility formulations for her hormones to restore ovulation and restore function and communication between her brain and her ovaries. So in those early days, not only were you taking the junk juice, but you were cooking the raw herbs, like in the traditional form. Like, you were so hardcore. When you first took those home, what did your husband say?
I mean, it was, they really have a really strong odor. So, that was, and also I just had never, I mean, and then the taste is really strong too. I mean, now I get the pre-cooked through you. And I mean, that was a game changer for me, but for years I boiled.
They're vacuum sealed into little packets so that you don't deal with the smell. You just tear the packet open and drink it. Anybody who's watching our interview right now, it looks like this delicious cocktail.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. So you were cooking it at home.
I was cooking it at home and they smelled bad. And honestly, like you were adjusting them a lot because, you know, at the beginning when we tried putting me on the herbs that were not custom, I was like, it wasn't specific enough for what I needed, you know, it was too strong. And so, you know, immediately you made these custom formulas, which, you know, I was reactivating like over my ovaries in a way that probably they'd never been since I was like, I don't know, 13 years old. And so it was like, you could feel my body changing for sure. But I was feeling good on the formulas that you made me. And it was amazing. I mean, I restored my period. And then the next thing you knew, I was pregnant. I think I was on those herbs, but I was on those herbs for a little while. Like I was on those herbs from October through probably April was when I got pregnant with Sophia. So like, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was starting to lose faith when I got pregnant. I was like, oh my God, like this is just, I have done everything. And I feel like, oh my God, is this really gonna work? And then something kind of shifted and it worked.
And that's what happens a lot of the time, you know, with any method. I think, you know, natural medicine, it's almost harder to keep the faith because, you know, we're not trained in this society to really believe in it. But what people don't realize is that when you embark on IVF or IUI, you could easily be 6, 7, 8 months into it and still not have a baby or a pregnancy or anything. So it's not actually like when I review studies of Western versus Eastern methods, it's actually not faster with Western methods a lot of the time. If you factor in like preparing for the IVF cycle and then doing it, and then maybe that one didn't work, so you do another one and you take a month off in between and blah, 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 blah. So it seems like a long time and it's hard to keep the faith. Like you're like, oh, these herbs are disgusting and this is so annoying and it gets expensive. And sometimes it's just sort of like reevaluating things like, how am I feeling? What changes have I noticed? You know, like, oh, wait, my cycle has become more regular. And oh, I feel clearer and more energetic and more emotionally balanced. And, you know, so I think we have to take inventory sometimes on a journey like this of not only am I pregnant or am I not pregnant, of what other positive changes have we experienced? What personal, physiological, emotional, spiritual evolution are we experiencing? Because the challenge of a fertility journey can actually be an opportunity for incredible personal growth.
Yeah. Also, I mean, the other question is like, if it's going to take you 5 years to get pregnant, which it takes some people, are you going to be on a journey that's sustainable where like you're adding to your nutrition and like, you feel like you're not pumping yourself with, I don't know, some crazy amount of artificial hormones. And granted, for some people, that's what they need to do in conjunction with the treatments that you do. But like for someone like me, I thought, listen, if this takes me years, like I don't have it in me to be on the roller coaster of IVF or of the Clomid stuff. Like my body I just don't have that kind of stamina. I still have to keep my job. I still have to keep my marriage. I still have to be like, I mean, I'm in a client facing job. I think if I had to do the cycles with the art, with all of that, I just don't know if I would have been able to sustain it. And there are people out there who like can power through and are just warriors. And that's amazing. It wasn't something that was it was a very conscious decision for me that I wasn't going to do that for myself.
That's actually really insightful because I marvel at the strength of women going through this. Like yours was a determination and a conviction in how you were going to do this. You're like, I am going to do this naturally. I am going to take charge. I am going to make this happen. Awesome. A lot of the women I see are, I am going to do this. I am going to put my body through the ringer with these conventional treatments like IVF, and I'm going to handle it and I'm going to keep going. And so, you know, I'm not going to tell people there's a wrong way. I support anybody who comes through my door. I'm going to support them in the method that they have chosen and try to smooth the path. But I think it's important to keep in mind that it's not, there are some cases where IVF and IUI are 100% indicated. Those are actually very few cases. And instead, the IVF and IUI are giving this sort of notion or false notion of control over the situation, because you can get so much more information when you take the eggs out and you fertilize them and you do all the things, right? And it's hard to keep the faith when there's a lot of mystery going on internally. But okay, so this is awesome. So, you know, the nutritional changes, the herbal changes, you're doing acupuncture. Tell us about what happened after you conceived the first baby. Like, you conceived baby 1, and then what was the fertility journey like thereafter for 2 and 3?
I would say, well, first of all, I think that because we had done so much with my adrenals and with the herbs that I did before I conceived, I had a pretty easy pregnancy aside from like the first trimester. And I feel like I really had like a lot more adrenal juice to give. And I think that's just inherent also being your first pregnancy instead of your third. But I would say, like, I felt pretty strong during my pregnancy. I had a lot of energy. When it was over, it was like, breastfeeding was like, I mean, I hate breastfeeding, but breastfeeding was like very, like, I had great milk supply. Like, there was all this amazing stuff, I would say, from just having done the prep, which I didn't do for my second or third pregnancies. I mean, like, it wasn't something that I thought about. I didn't appreciate how much we had done to prepare my body for that pregnancy, probably. And so then with my second, when I decided I wanted to conceive her, I think, or conceive a child, I think you made me like a custom formula, which I was on for like, I don't know, a month. And then I conceived with my second child right away. And then with my third, it was kind of like, I didn't do anything. I was just, doing regular acupuncture here and there. I don't even think I think I probably had even been a little less regular between my first and third pregnancies in general. Like, I was coming, but I was, I think it was a super busy time, and it was hard to get in as much as I would have liked to. And so, with the third, it was kind of like, oops, maybe we should try to get pregnant. And then it was like, I'm pregnant. Yeah. And now I'm just like afraid.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's something that's interesting about fertility. And I find this in a lot of cases with PCOS is like, once you do lay the foundation, you do the groundwork, then like, your body can reset. And sometimes we just need to guide it back into balance in a way, in a healthy enough way. You make a really good point that you're like, we did this work. It was basically preconception planning. You did this work to get your body to a place where it was in the sort of receptive place, and everything was functioning in sync enough for you to conceive a pregnancy. And then after that, you didn't really need the same kind of help. And then it's more just, checking in and doing management of things. You had learned the nutritional principles, which you carry forward. You already knew what to do with your nutrition if things were not going well, right? You knew to check in for herbs or acupuncture if things were not in sync. So you had that foundation from which to go forward, and then, make things happen over and over again. And you have this beautiful family. So great. And like, kudos to you, because you had the discipline to keep kind of revisiting the basics and making it happen.
Right. Well, I would say what's funny is that it gets easier in the sense that I cut things out that I don't really bring back, but it doesn't get easier in the sense that, I do have to frequently like redirect myself onto the path. I have to frequently do resets, or like, here and there come in for a custom formula, or like come to acupuncture twice a week, or like, there are moments where, I've been, super depleted for some reason of, just working too much or things being really crazy. And then even recently with, having gotten the vaccine, I'm now feeling a lot better, but like for the first year after that, even that threw me back into like a PCOS kind of state. And now, I feel like I'm recovered from that, but even that showed me how far we'd come. And then to have something that was like an inflammation over bomb, bomb, and then have to like come out of that again. Cause I'd almost forgotten how much I had to do to like get to the point where we were just kind of redirecting instead of like bringing everything back to where it needs to be. And I think that, has been, I don't know, I think it was something that reminded me how far I've come and how hard we've worked on this.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Did you lose? It says you have time. You have 9 minutes and 41 seconds left. There you go.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you bring up the vaccine, because we've seen that there's been a lot of menstrual irregularities for people after the fact. And I think people are wondering about the mechanism of that. Now, PCOS, like as with a bunch of other fertility and hormone disorders, are like greatly affected by inflammation. You have an elevation of inflammation in your system. It will start to block receptor sites for your insulin. It will send your insulin out of whack. And so I've seen women with PCOS have very bad reactions to the vaccine in terms of like their androgens going up, their male hormones going up, they lose hair, maybe acne kind of starts spreading again. That wasn't one of your issues. Weight gain, irregular cycles, big time. I've seen it with patients with autoimmune disorders like Hashimoto's or with endometriosis. So, we have to be mindful of when we're being exposed to some kind of inflammation and take action accordingly. Like, you are a high performing woman. You go to Europe on these trips, like frequently, you're constantly hosting and out and about. You have these 3 littles. It's kind of like, and you're doing these big deals, like these amazing, like this amazing luxury real estate in New York City. And you don't really stop.
I know.
So when that is the case, you have to find balance in other ways. Like, there's got to be something to top up the tank, or you will start to fray at the edges. And not to mention the fact that you also still want to look good, right? So a lot of people can go out and entertain and do these things, but they start to become roly-poly and look a little tired, and that's not an option for you either. So your arsenal, tell our listeners like what it looks like.
Well, I have like a pharmacy at home of tinctures, and then I have some of the powders, and these are some of the just regular traditional formulas, in the sense of like not just the custom formulas, because I feel like the custom formulas, in the end, when you come up with them for me, I kind of end up using them until they're done most of the time. I have a couple custom formulas at home. Like, we had an Impetigo episode last summer. We have a custom formula at home for that. I have some custom formulas that are around the house, but aside from that, it's mostly the other basic formulas that you've taught me to use. Like, there's the Bao Hewan one, and then there's the Swan Zhao Rentang one, and like the Guipi Tong. And there are these formulas that I just keep at home. And then when I have something going on and I'm like, hey, Christina, this is going on, you tell me to like pull out that formula. So I found that for me, having those formulas ready to go and learning more and more how to use them has been great. Because the truth is like, it's taken me years to kind of understand in what case I'm using those particular formulas, instead of with the Glow and the Supernatural and the Detox. Like, it's really easy to know when I'm using those formulas. Like, those are the basic, simple, kind of sustaining my system formulas. Whereas the rest of these I use in more acute situations. And even with those, like, for example, that Jiao Wei one that you've prescribed to me, it's like, that one is amazing, but it only works when in certain situations. And then if it's at the wrong part of my cycle, it doesn't work. So, I think I've been really fortunate that I've been armed not only with the ability to like know what I need to have in my apothecary at home, but also that I kind of know how to use them enough to be dangerous, but also, that I have you to message about what to do with them next. And I'm sure if I wanted to spend the time researching it myself, I could figure it out, but I think we've gotten to a good, yeah, I would say like, cause it truthfully has been helpful, that you've explained to me, what things are. But like, yeah, there's situations where I'll be like, should I use this? And you're like, no, not that right now. So
yeah, I think
really,
like building the home apothecary is an amazing thing. Like, for you yourself, for your family. Like, I really encourage people to like ask questions, learn, have a guide. Like, if it's not me, it could be somebody like me, right? That can teach you what you need to have at home to go to, so that you don't need to run to the doctor for every little thing, and maybe, overuse antibiotics and things that are not exactly ideal. So for my ambitious, sort of devout, naturalist patients like you, I get you set up with a certain amount of formulas, like a good sleep one, a digest one if you've overdone it, one to help damage control if you've had a couple glasses of wine, and then your more maintenance formulas. And these are the formulas that I've made more publicly available. The ones like Glow and Supernatural that are available on ilovejunkjuice.com. How has your experience been with those? Like, what do they do for you?
Well, Glow, I find, I was telling you the other day, I think Glow is a really good like general energy formula for me, especially from what you were saying, like at the beginning of my cycle, like the follicular stage, definitely feel really, I mean, my skin, I mean, it's amazing for my skin. I recently took it with me on my trip, and I found that I had really, really great energy on my trip, which is really hard when you're traveling. Like I was traveling and like indulging and being in Europe and, flights and the whole thing. I would say that was amazing. And then Supernatural, I would say I just find it to be like a great formula. I feel more regular on it, feel more, more stable mood wise. I mean, it really is kind of like supernatural. I don't know how else to kind of describe it, but for me, like it's being able to function at this high of a level. I find that doesn't really happen for me unless I'm on the herbs, because they really help like balance it all out. I can do a certain amount with the diet and lifestyle and acupuncture, but inherently with like the toxins in New York City, with the stress in my life, with the fact that like I'm still not as clean as I was when I was doing all my fertility treatments. Like that's not even, I'm not there anymore. Like I'm really clean to a normal person, but I'm not at that level anymore. And I just have to own it. That's who I am right now. It's just like, I'm doing the best I can. And yes, to somebody else, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you don't eat any gluten. And I can't believe you don't eat any dairy. And I'm like, yeah, but I have iced tea with lemon and,
the occasional glass of wine. Yeah.
100%.
But I think, there's a balance here, it's not about being perfect, and you wouldn't have the same level of motivation to sort of really clean everything up the same way that you did when you were trying to conceive your first child, right? Like at that point you were like, exactly. Just tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. And you were successful in doing it all naturally with, a very like elongated, irregular cycle. And where the medical profession had told you that you would probably need some help. So what advice would you impart to our listeners on this journey?
Well, I would say that you should definitely try out the junk juice formulas. I definitely think that, Christina, and on the site on Junk Juice Magic, there's definitely all the explanations of when you should be taking certain formulas. I find them to be a game changer. I think it's incredible. And then of course, with it, you need to be mindful of the fact that it will not fix you if you are not ready to actually clean up your diet, make sure that you're doing the rest of the part. Being active and having a great diet is so fundamentally important. And more with what you see with epigenetics, with just the way that we need to be working on preventative medicine. Like, I think this is something that's kind of a no-brainer. It helps you stay on the path because it gives you that boost, and then you can do the rest yourself, and you're going to be supernatural, literally.
Love it. Kirsten, you were so kind to join us today. I know you have this very busy job by day, and that is that of a real estate broker. Where can our listeners find you if they would like to learn more about you and your empowerment through, entrepreneurial pursuits for women, or just to, buy an apartment or sell an apartment?
There we go. Right. By day, real estate agent by day. Well, KirstenJordan.com is my personal brand website. Everything's there, and you can get to the Kirsten Jordan team website from there. And then of course we have at Kirsten.Jordan, which is my Instagram handle. TikTok is the same. And engage with me, reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
Love it. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.